Alright, keeping up with the wood build here. And we're finishing researches as well, which is awesome. Alright. I wish there was a better way to deal with... I mean... Our bullets don't actually do enough damage yet for this to be a reasonable way to deal with trees. But we are slowly getting access to oil products. So as soon as we get the military technology researched, we can work on getting stuff out of the way. Mahalik, yeah, I think that's what it's looking like. As long as I pace myself right, I can always, you know, boot up every other night and just get a little bit more done. And a little bit more done, and a little bit more done. And I don't doubt that I'll have, you know, 320? Holy crap. With this combination, Krastorio 2 and Space Exploration. Well, I'm glad that I have so much to look forward to. By so much, I mean probably an infinite number of headaches. But it seems like there's enough fun stuff in these two mods, especially when combined, that it sort of makes it worth it. What am I working on? How do I not just win? So I am working on building a factory to produce things. And with this set of mods, it changes the base game so that instead of the end goal of this game being to just launch a rocket, I believe that the goal is to build an intergalactic spaceship. And the difficulty here is that I need to research all the technologies necessary to build these things. So, you know, at some point I'm going to need to research batteries and stuff like that, and then eventually I'm going to need to research, you know, advanced oil processing to get better products and, you know, better batteries and better furnaces and etc., and then I get the disco ball, which lets me research even more stuff, and then I have to build space scaffolding so that I can get even more things, etc., and then it just goes into just fucking stupidity, like all of these technologies, and then I end up building, you know, giant spaceships and stuff like that. And then when all is said and done, the goal is to get a victory by researching this spaceship victory. Now, if you look at what this requires all previous technologies, so I have to research all of these technologies, as well as making each one of these things, 10,000 of them each. And the Deep Space Force Science Pack, let's see if we can find what it actually takes to make that. It takes, you know, processors and data and stuff like this, so I wish it told me on the space exploration stuff what the raw crafting time for stuff like this is, because the individual crafting time for just this one item, if you can see down there, is 240 seconds for just this one item. But if I were to try and find a way to... Is there a way for me to actually tell? No, it's not gonna let me... I'm sure that, you know, the raw crafting time for that individual thing would probably exceed, you know, probably 12 hours or more of just raw crafting. Yeah, that's so if I look at something like this, I can see total raw materials and crafting time. So eventually I'm sure I would see that as well. But I don't think there's a good way to figure that out just this minute. Also, Mahalik, huge thank you for that follow, by the way. I appreciate that. Maybe you can boot up and tell us where you're at and what the most ridiculous contiguous raw crafting time you've got is. I'd be very interested to know. Don't go beyond deep space. Hey, I mean, my plan, right, is I'm going to try and pace myself. And I know that, you know, saying that you're going to pace yourself and then saying I'm playing Factorio, those are pretty much mutually exclusive. But as long as I do it right, then I'll be pretty good. And hey, one of the things that I sort of set out for myself with this playthrough is that I'm only going to ratio things in the microcosm. So what I mean by that is, right, this setup right here, to make these two things, perfectly ratioed. For all of the stuff that requires these things, not ratioed at all. It just sort of is what it is. And as long as I continue doing that, then instead of, you know, spending ages slaving over bottlenecks, if I need more, I just add more. And I think especially with a game like this is probably the good way to go. So, it is what it is, exactly. I should add some more glass to my name as well here, which would be good for the whole thing where I'm trying to make more wood. So. Yeah, so the fun thing about this, right, is that this world, this is maximum zoom level for this planet, basically, and it goes even farther than this. You can see I've, taken up a fraction of this, and, my base right now isn't even very space efficient. Space efficiency in Factorio, not really a huge deal. Especially not with this combination of mods, which just gives me other planets that I can go visit. Just, straight up other planets and stuff like that, which I don't have a good way of looking at right now. But there are plenty of opportunities. In fact, Mahalik, if you're gonna start hanging out here, I'm always looking for tips and pointers on how to do some of this stuff, because this is my very first time with space exploration. So I am a complete noob when it comes to actually knowing how to do the stuff that needs doing. So any advice you've got is always welcome. I have a vague idea of what I'm going for, but beyond that, nothing much. Okay, a little bit more glass, which is going to let me build a couple more of these. I'll just build what I can build for now. The good news is that I'm about to get access to cars, which is going to be a pretty substantial shift in the paradigm. So, but for the time being, we're just going to continue on with this. Get the belts run, and then I think the plan was right. We're just going to sort of bend it up this way. So, going to need a lot of pipes for that as well, but we've got some pipes crafting up towards the bus there, so. Really, right now, it's just going to be more land clearing and more infrastructure building so that I can get where I need to go. So, but I mean, hey, for now, I think we're right on curve. The next big turning point is going to probably happen when I need to put together electronic components, which is going to require plastic, and plastic is going to require oil. Now, the good news is that we've got some pretty substantial oil fields out this way. We've got 6.1 and 3.9 right there. So that's a combined, actually exactly 10 million. This is 10 million oil right there that I've got access to. And the really neat thing about Krastorio is that it modifies the way that oil works, so that it's not diminishing returns. In fact, it's a uniform draw across all patches. So I will have the ability to get a lot of oil out of those two patches. And if I sort of do it right from the get-go, that means that I'll be set for quite some time as long as I do it correctly. Now, regardless of whether or not barreling is going to be more efficient in this playthrough, I think I'm just going to opt for the tanker cars, just because it's going to make everything easier, and I prefer not to deal with the barreling. So, but I think it's going to work out pretty well, especially when we were working in that kind of quantity. So, but the chances are pretty soon here, I will continue using my starter base, and this is going to sort of turn into my mall for quite some time. So I'm probably not going to do many off-site productions, so I'm probably still going to bus everything centrally here. And one of the things that I did that I built into this base... Oh boy. Okay, that's getting a little close for comfort there. Thankfully, I believe I've actually already researched... I have, look at that! I've got meteor point defenses now. Super cool. And presumably these are meteor point defense ammo. Yeah, so I should make one of these at some point, which is going to require concrete. But, what was I saying? I was saying something. Oh, I built in extra production capabilities to the beginning of the bus here. So this should be scalable all the way up to blue belts and beyond, just for this processing setup here. So, because I can do a drop-in replacement for steel furnaces and red belts, which will keep the belts fully saturated. And then I can actually also adjust this to be ready for electric furnaces as well, because then I just move these to be onto the single belt. And we can upgrade that even further. And it looks like there's some other things that we can change. We're going to have access to more logistics technologies than we would normally. We have 5 tiers of logistics and 5 tiers of belts instead of the normal 3 in the base game. So there's going to be plenty of room for expansion, and I've designed that as such. So instead of doing, a proper, bootstrap base, and then more bootstrap, and then, you know, the endless cycle of bootstrap bases, then we're going to have a little bit of an easier time, as long as we can just sort of cling on to this base for as long as possible. Which might be a little bit of a weird thing to do, but I think that it, in the long run, it'll probably make pretty good sense to do it like that. So, and we got our lab speed research going here, which is actually quite nice to see. So, dump off a little bit more of our wood, which is what we're currently using to make our basic tech cards. Point being that we're going to need wood for a lot of other things here moving forward, so that's why we are currently working on connecting it to the bus. We're also going to need to find sources of stone and coal in the raw senses, which I'll probably just split off from here and bust over as needed. I'll probably do an output priority belt so that the smelter takes priority, as well as with this setup here, the smelter's probably going to take priority. And in fact, I might even choose just to sort of tap this off at the top. No, I'll probably tap it off at the bottom right here, because then eventually when I convert this over to being fully electric, I'm not going to even need to have coal up there anyways. So that'll probably be the choice that I make. The good news, though, is that I've got several pipes that I can start playing with here. So start crafting up some undergrounds. I'm also going to need to make many more belts here in just a second. So that requires motors, which we are producing, as well as iron plates. So just get a whole ton of these queued up. And then I'm also going to need plenty of inserters, which is going to give me sticks, inserter parts, and automation cores. So I will make the sticks in my inventory, but I have this very pleasant setup right here, making both inserter parts and automation cores, which I will fully take advantage of. There we go. That should be a good start for the manual crafting that I need to do. And the idea right now is actually to begin building up an actual mall setup here. The problem, though, right, is that for some of the things that I actually want to put in my mall, they're going to start requiring steel and stuff like that. So the goal is probably to have a small steel production facility, even inside the main bus, which is a little bit of a controversial thing to do, because generally steel is grouped along with the other resources. But, you know, I think for right now, because we're going to do it sort of in a mall kind of setup, it can be fairly incremental for now. So I'm going to continue putting these down and hopefully actually get wood on the belts, and we can expand this as time goes on. So the ratio that we figured out here is that one of these crushers can actually support up to 45 of these individual greenhouses. So we've got plenty of stuff to use so far. How am I finding biters? So far, so good. They've surprised me a couple of times, but so far I've been able to keep them at bay. In fact, just about an hour ago, what I did is I set up my first defensive border here. Open on the eastern front, because there's not much to go there. But as soon as I get some actual biter fighting capabilities, I'm going to be extending it all the way to the lake here. And obviously there's going to be this base that's going to give me a lot of traffic when I do so. But for the time being, I think that we're going to be okay. So that is currently the plan with the biters. Next manual crafting operation is going to be a lot of inserters, so let's do that next. And I guess we can leave the sand here for now. So this is actually going to be quite expansive. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we can actually support way even more than this. So maybe we just look at this much for a little bit and see how much that'll produce, because this is 18 times 2 is 36. 36 times 2/3 is going to be, I think I can do that in my head, divided by 3 is 12 times, okay, so that's going to be 24. So that's almost going to be a full yellow belt. In fact, let's just do the math there. We want 30, but we want whatever is going to be 2/3 of 30. So 30 times 3 halves, or 1.5, is going to be 45 machines exactly. Divided by 2 is going to be 22.5, so we can round up to 23 on a side. Right now we've got 18, so we'll grab 5 more here. And round up. And that actually is going to come in a perfect location so that we can just sort of tap it off and run it up with the belt, which is exactly what we were planning on doing. Also, the real Paggy, Pagei, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate that. I hope you're enjoying. So, obviously we don't have the machines here to support that kind of operation for now, but we are able to just sort of bring it up this way. And I think let's put the wood tap probably right here. Just give ourselves some space in case something goes on. But for now, that'll be a good way to do it. And we finished researching on cars. So let's continue with the lab research here for a second. And after that, I think we can just start getting into the infrastructure that we want. So we can do definitely landfill, tanks. We can get the sulfur going. The plastics especially is going to be big. And we're going to want electronics too, as well as finally, let's go for stack inserters next, because those are probably going to be pretty useful here in just a little bit. But in the meantime, we're not able to craft more greenhouses right now because we're waiting. Oh, we're actually waiting on wood. Curious. I still don't even have enough to make 2 more though. So yeah, for the time being, we're gonna be right here, which is okay. So we should get the water set up as well as the inserters necessary to make this all happen. So, but for starters, we can just go ahead and do one of these. To get the machines that we do have set up. All right. Now, I still do need to provide power to this guy over here, which I'm aware of. Just want to get things flowing here first. Now to confirm, there's enough water through here. In fact, I think I'm being slightly stupid about this, aren't I? Because if I look at this machine, no, it does not have pass-through support. I thought for a second there that I was going to have pass-through support. In fact, maybe it does. I'm just being silly about it. I don't think it does, though. Let's see. So if I select the recipe that I want, yes, all of these are inlets. So unfortunately, there is no machine pass-through. It has to be individually piped to each machine, which is in and of itself not an issue. We have already set up the infrastructure needed to, you know, not need to do that. But just want to make sure that if there's an easier way to do it, then we do it that way. Oops. Not explicitly what I meant to do. Okay, so you should be full on water. Very good. We're going to want to go ahead and get this guy hooked up now. So we're coming from this pump right here. I think we've only recently been given access to steel implements, but this actually reaches perfectly. So for the time being, we are all set to go. Did I get the bigger electricals? I don't see them available for research, which makes me think that I have. I have, in fact. However, they require concrete, which is going to require water, sand, and stone bricks. Okay, well, then riddle me this. What is to stop me from grabbing one of these, popping it down right here, and quickly making just a little bit of concrete? Which I would like to make if I could find it. Here we go. That is hazard concrete. I'm guessing it can only be made in up to assembling machine 2. There's no need to use a pipe between greenhouses, just put them one by the other. You mean just like this? Because it looks like all of them are inlets. So I was not sure if that was going to work. I guess it's pretty easy to test, right? We're just going to disconnect this here, pick this up so that there's no water in it, and see if it fills up. Oh, it does. Interesting. So is it in fact feeding from these? If it does, that's really cool. Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much. It's really counterintuitive that it does that, though, because it looks like all of these are inlets. But I welcome the simplicity, so thank you very much for pointing that out. I appreciate that. Means that we can save our pipes for another time, which is probably going to be oil production here in not too long. So, all right, we've got our assembling machine number 2. We're going to quickly whip up some concrete. Iron sticks, yes, of course. Oh, that's amusing. That's an actual concrete recipe that makes kind of sense, because this is serving as the rebar. That's kind of cute. All right. Oh, that is a large attack in a location that I had not previously fortified in the best possible way. However, tactical rocks mean that that's not too much of an issue. Alright, there's our 10 concrete. We really don't need anything more than that. I just wanted enough to make a couple of these big guys. You had the same reaction first time too with K2 greenhouses. Yeah, it's interesting that I played like a good 70% of a K2 playthrough a while back, and I didn't even realize that that was the case. So you've just you've opened my eyes, sir. Thank you. Uno mas, por favor. Come on. Now, this is something interesting that I've noted, is that if you have a ghost entity selected, it will not turn into not a ghost entity when you actually get enough of those. Look at that, filling up right quick. Okay, maybe not quite as fast because it has to fill up these buffers, but I think that does the trick. So I'm sure that once the operation actually gets going, the ratios will not be so bad. So I'm going to go ahead and power this down for a second here while I get everything sorted out. So you're going to be doing less than 1 per second on the input and then less than 1 per second on the output. However, yeah, I guess we can still just do it like this. There's no harm in doing so. Oops. Okay, so I actually need to not be an idiot about this. So you need to grab, and then you place back. So then you grab, and you place back. There we go. Okay, so this is exactly what I wanted. And, in fact, I can put just 1 power pole there. And that should do what I wanted to do. I'm still going to put 2 right here, just for the sake of it. But this means that I can then sort of alternate this. So let's go ahead and get another one of these duplicated here. With this on the other side, I am going to need to make more of these, though. And then we'll put down some lights for good measure, because why not? And then we'll just stamp this a couple times. Very nice. I wager probably going to need a couple more lights to make this happen, but fine by me. So, as a reminder, after we get the wood hooked up, we're going to hook up raw stone and raw coal, or I guess just coal, to our bus. I actually don't need to put these down yet, but I'm going to do so anyways. So that we may begin making, among other things, coal coke and steel, and lots of the other stuff. Am I going big for the early game? Well, I think you joined a little bit after, but I actually dived into my philosophy with this base a little bit earlier. But the idea with this base is that I'm going to try my very best to avoid the typical situation that befalls Factorio players, which is, you know, a bootstrap base, and then you start over and make, you know, a bootstrap base to bootstrap the bootstrap base, etc., etc. And I'm really going to try and stay in this base as long as I can. And as a consequence of that, it means that I'm sort of designing everything for expandability. So for example, if you look at the way that I've designed my smelting array, I've actually left space for all of these things to be upgraded pretty immensely. And you know, one of the consequences of this is that I can actually fit in double the amount of belts here to compress this down. This is an expandable setup so that I can go through for 3 wide machines. It's not beaconable, so obviously once I hit, you know, a mainstream beacon level of technology, then I'm going to be making a new base anyways, because by that time I'll have access to robots and other things. But the point is that I've got this set up so that it's very easily expandable, especially even down to the 3x3 machines. And the goal with this is to continue making an expandable bus architecture, and instead of doing perfect ratios for everything, simply just add more as is needed. So obviously I can upgrade individual machines as well, and once this bus sort of grows beyond what's needed here, I can sort of either make these individual ones longer and simply relocate the setup, which is not going to be that big of a deal, or I can simply make multiple of these same modules later on down the bus, which is in fact even probably a better way to do it. So, but I have a little bit of benefit of forethought going for me with this specific area. So, but the good news is that it's working. It's working. And in fact, because we have a sort of weird average for the way that this shakes out, this is going to continue putting stuff onto the belt. So this is not going to be a full yellow belt by any stretch of the mind. But the point being, we've got production up, and we are actually producing wood. Now, here is the slight complication that I'm going to involve for myself here, which is that I would like to now swap this belt out, because previously I was not supplying wood to this setup, I was doing it manually. Now, instead of trying to do some kind of slick reverso technique, I am just going to do it the dumb way. I'm going to do a simple belt-sidedness trick here. So I'm just going to run it back up this way, and we're going to want it to be on the far side. So what's the best way to do that? Nope, that's not going to work. I can probably delay it till I have a little bit of a different handedness here. So, and in fact, I can probably just split it off from here and do some kind of balancing trick. I'll probably side balance it as well, and then split it off into a single side, which is probably the best way to do this. So we're actually going to have output priority be to the science setup here. So I bootstrap nuclear power with 15 seconds of plates in order to survive the first. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, that's definitely a way to do it. Okay. Where are we actually going here? Yeah, I didn't mess with the world gen setup too much. I don't think I touched the patches at all. I think the only real thing that I touched was starting area size and no cliffs, because I hate cliffs. I know that there are cliff explosives and ways to get around it, but it just does not tickle my fancy. I just am endlessly pissed off by cliffs. So I reserve the right to turn them off. So, all right, let's get side balancing done right now, just so that I don't forget about it. And in fact, if we know that we're going for only a single-sided kind of deal here, we can do sort of a... So this is the typical design for a side balancer, just the sort of the lazy man's side balancer, which works. But now I know also that I want it to restrict it only to the outer belt here. So, trying to think if there's a slick way that I can do this. I mean, there's no need to really just reinvent the wheel here too much. Just do it like that. And that just works perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with this. It's going to do exactly what I need it to do, and therefore, it works. Okay, well, assuming I put it where it needs to go. There you go. So now, this is going to bend all the way around and get put on the proper side of the belt. So we are now successfully automatically feeding wood into this setup. Now, that's not to say that I already have a lot of wood stocked up, so I'm going to do that and eat the losses for a little bit. And in fact, this actually provides us with a great opportunity to do direct insertion here onto the belt, so that I have a way to automatically add new stock to this without actually drawing from this bus, because this is actually going to have higher priority based on the way that it's set up here. So because this is going to be inserting before this actually happens, it's going to be blocking off the belts. So you can see this here. You know, obviously it's not inserting as fast as possible here, but it appears that my side balancer is not working because I'm doing this. Yes, I do have a schedule. I'm attempting to do right now Monday, Wednesday, Friday, starting at 7 p.m. EST, as well as a stream on either Saturday or Sunday or both, for either, you know, special content or just more of the same, depending on how I feel. So amusingly, now that I look at this, this does not actually work because we do still maintain a side preference here. So what I want to do is I want to find a way to just get both of these things onto the same one. So I guess we can spend the rest of the time in this one doing a little bit of R&D. And by that I mean, how am I going to make this in a convincing way? Okay, you don't need to be doing that right now, though. So I want to get both of these onto this without there being a side preference. So I know I'm going to need a splitter. And one of these needs to take the top lane, and one of them needs to take the bottom lane. So what occurs to me is I can do something like this. However, this is going to need to be moved up for this. So why don't I just split it like this? I'm going to need more splitters, I know. And then just sort of do some kind of backwardsy kind of thing. So output priority to the left, because this still is going to maintain the output priority that we need. And then we can even do something like this. Get rid of you for now and you for now. Okay, so we have one going like this, one going like this. Now, one of these is going to draw from the top side, and one's going to draw from the bottom side. Perfect. I'm going to want to bend this around. So now we have opposing sides of the belt that are from each of these. But now we want to merge them onto just this side. So I'm really bad at belt stuff. So yeah, I appreciate that, Pidgey. Thank you so much. I appreciate the follow. Now I want to find a way to intersperse these onto this belt in equivalent fashion. I'm really bad at this. Wow. I'm much better with the macroscopic stuff than the nitty-gritty stuff. So what do I actually want? I want one side of the belt to be fed by either side of this, which means that I need a way for getting everything on the belt, but to split it. Ah, okay, so I see what needs to be done here. Okay, so I actually need to take both of these off, but have them on the same side. I'm assuming this is the same spot. Yeah, that's fine. We'll let this guy get his body count up a little higher, and then we're actually going to go help him out. So what I actually want to do is I want to get a splitter here, but now I want to get these two on the same side of the belt. So is there a convenient way in which to do that? You can throw out your opinion at any time, Pagey, and I will either choose to accept it or I will choose to ignore it, and it's nothing personal either way. Alright, let's go for... Polarizer looks fun. And I guess let's also unlock these cards so that we can start... Oh, wow. Okay, that unlocks a lot. So... I want to get this onto the same side of the belt. So I need something that will switch the side of the belts over. Now it would certainly be more convenient to get them both on the bottom. So now I'm basically just looking for a way to switch this to the bottom side. So I think that's going to look something like this. Usually use loaders into chest to balance. If it's not working when the chest is full. Interesting. You know, that is a very interesting way to do it. Yeah, I always forget that there are loaders in this pack because they just feel so cheaty and vanilla. But I believe this actually accomplishes what I wanted to do. It's a little bit big, but I think this is actually the intent. So if I draw from this belt, I should see both of these being used equally. Which, look at that, they are. So, I don't know. I would so much rather have my own wonderful spaghetti here than just, you know, using a couple of loaders and saying, fuck it. Trust me, I will be using loaders. But, I like doing this a lot. So, but yeah, we got it working. So we will return next time to continue hooking up the wood.